In 2016, the Supreme Court ruled that the key tenets of the Scottish Government's named person scheme were unlawful. 5 years on, we're taking a look back at that long road to victory. This time, we're turning to some of the people that the named person scheme affected personally. James and Rhianwen McIntosh were living in Bonnybridge near Falkirk around the time the scheme was set to come into force. But even before the law became operational, they discovered 2 of their children had already been assigned named persons. James and Rhianwen, thank you for joining me today. How did you become aware that this had happened?
As you said, 2 of our children had been referred to 2 different health professionals, and when we got the letter for both of the different appointments, at the bottom of the letter, both of the letters stated that they had been assigned this named person and all their medical reports would be shared and go directly to this appointed person.
Do you know who that named person was set to be?
We never found out who that person was. One of the health professionals said they thought, when I asked, they thought it was a school nurse, which we didn't even know. Obviously our children were being home educated, so we had nothing to do with any school within Bonnybridge. But that's what we were told, but we're never given a name as to who that person was.
So you had no contact details, no way of getting in touch with the person to talk about any of this?
No, none whatsoever.
And you received letters saying that these named persons would be sent a letter containing your children's medical information. To me, that seems quite disturbing.
It was. I mean, this was before the scheme was due to go live, and I think NHS Forth Valley had really jumped the gun on this. And when we read that paragraph at the bottom of the letters, we thought, well, hang on a minute, this is at least 18 months before the scheme was due to go live. What are they doing? And what does this mean for our children? What about our consent? What about their confidential medical records? As Rhianwen said, who is this named person anyway? And that prompted, I think it was Rhianwen, I think you did it, phone CI and see what they thought about it.
And what sort of response did you get?
Very helpful. I can't remember who I spoke to, but they certainly listened and said someone will be in touch, and someone was, and the rest is history, as they say.
It's been said that at the heart of this legislation there's a lack of trust in parents to do their jobs, that every parent is potentially a threat almost to vulnerable children. Does that resonate with how you felt?
Yes, definitely. I think my initial reaction was I just really felt belittled as a parent. Here I thought I was doing the best job I could as a mother. None of us are perfect, we all make mistakes, but I thought we were doing the best we could, and being a parent doesn't require you to have a special qualification. It just requires you to love your children the best that you can. And so it really felt belittling that some appointed person who we didn't know, who didn't even know our children, was now going to be in the background, but very much a key person in the care of our children, which just seemed totally wrong.
Now, I've already spoken to a range of campaigners about their various concerns about the named person scheme, but how did you, as a family with young children, feel about it? What were the biggest concerns to you?
I think biblically we've always understood that, scary as it is, that the primary responsibility for bringing children up, as we would understand as Christians, in the fear and instruction or fear and admonition of the Lord, is our responsibility. Now that's a privilege, it's a blessing, but at times it feels like a real burden to try and get that right. And in the best that we were trying to do for one another, supporting Rhianwen as mum, Rhianwen supporting me as dad, bringing up our kids as mum and dad, who's this third party that's going to start getting involved in that and potentially questioning every decision that we make, and undermining what we were trying to do in terms of bringing up our children. So I think that would be the main concern.
Yeah. I think we all have different ways and ideas of how to bring up our children, even within Christian circles, but also in non-Christian circles. And we felt, well, what if we as a family have made that decision, say our children aren't going to play sport on a Sunday, and a named person comes in and says, well, your child really wants to be a part of this team, this is the requirement. You're not allowing them to have that individuality, or whatever reason they give for allowing them to be able to play sports. This is their right to do it on a Sunday. And we thought, well, what then grounds do we have as parent? What authority do we have to be able to say, no, as a family, we have taken this decision? Or are we going to get hassle from this appointed person?
So that's one of the good things about life, isn't it? That there's diversity and lots of people have different ways that they like doing different things. And yet here we have the state saying, no, there's one way, this is the way that you have to do things, which is very difficult, I suppose. But you two became essentially the poster family for the named person campaign, the no to named person campaign, I should say. How did you get involved?
I think we didn't realise just how, I guess, big it was going to be and just our role in it. I think initially we just thought we would obviously bring our story and then that would be it. I don't think we realised at the time just how big and how national it was going to become, and certainly, have to go all the way down to the Supreme Court in London.
Yeah. I remember being in just before we were going to the outer house, the outer quarter session in Edinburgh. I think Rhianwen ended up talking to the TV media. These are household names in Scotland. Katrina Renton on Reporting Scotland, and Rhianwen is talking to Katrina Renton. And I ended up getting the print media, and one of the guys interviewing me from the Times I knew from university. So it was just bizarre, because as we walked around the corner into the court square, there was this whole, not just a couple of cameras, there was a whole barrage of, print media, still cameras, TV cameras. It's like, this is a bit bigger than we thought it was.
Well, 2 years after those letters came through the door, you're at the Supreme Court and you've won. What was that like?
That was great. Because we were co-petitioners in the case, we did get the heads up in advance of the judgment being handed down officially. And we were just told, Sam Webster made it very clear that you must not tell anybody. So we had this great news, and we just had to try and be fairly kind of poker-faced with the whole thing. But had we told the kids before we went down in the train that we'd won?
I don't know. I
can't remember. I think we might have done, but we said you can't tell anybody either.
And the judgment itself, a big relief.
Yes, very much so. I think it was a big relief to all families really in Scotland.
Did you feel like you were representing all those other families in Scotland, or did it just feel like a personal thing at the time?
I think it felt like a national thing, because although we didn't have any difficult situation which meant that we had any friction with any health professional, we've had no issues. But there are a lot of families in Scotland which maybe did have disagreements with health professionals. So we really felt for their sake, this isn't right, that they would have so much intrusion into their life. So I think it was more a fact that we cannot not get involved in this for all the families in Scotland and for our own children too, who may have, children and fall under this with their children. So yeah, I think we definitely realised the importance of it for the whole of Scotland.
we'd got to know Alison Preuss and Leslie Scott by that point, and we knew, especially through Alison, the impact that the named person scheme was then already having on a number of families in Scotland, and some just horrendous stories of state intrusion and breaching of privacy. And that again, it was almost like a kind of progressive understanding of the depth of this pernicious scheme.
But all in all, it was a wonderful result and wonderful end to a successful campaign. James, Rhianwen, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you.